Team, certified by WeatherRate, sponsored by AC Designs.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're well. We've got an active day ahead of, well, today's not really that active, but an active Wednesday ahead of us, and that's why I'm joined with meteorologist Lee Southwick there.
Hello.
I am meteorologist Lewis Turner here, First Coast News.
Back to the Lou and Lee show, and we still don't have a good name for it.
Yeah, I know. We'll come up with something. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Me either.
It's not like that. I know who could.
Andy?
It's Andy in,
Andy?
in the side room.
Andy, can we see you, please?
And Andy's one of the, what, he says no, not this time. But I know in the future we will be seeing him because he's got a camera angle set up there. Andy's one of the coolest cats I know. And where it takes me down a peg on the cool level is that I use the term cat. I still, I
Do you have something against cats?
No, just like
Just
when
the-
referring
just the
to
phrase.
a person who is neat, and maybe that's another issue I've got. So, without further delay, let's get into our weather impact alert for a Wednesday. Lee, what are you seeing?
All right, so I think it's an all-day event. You can see there morning through evening. We can probably fine-tune the hours of that a little bit more now, more like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., but widespread rain throughout the day, which means morning commute, lunch hour, evening commute, all impacted by this. Inside plans tomorrow, inside plans for your Wednesday, because it's going to be a nasty day. You don't want to be outside anyway. And don't forget your rain gear. I think the thing to do tonight, Lou, is to put your umbrella by the door or your rain jacket, have stuff ready to go in the car, because again, an all-day event, and it's going to be very impactful and annoying. We call it a nuisance when it comes to weather impact alerts as well.
Perfect.
And that's why we have issued this for Wednesday.
Absolutely perfect way of putting it. Couldn't have said it better myself. I think, there's perhaps a little trepidation when you think, oh, they're going to talk about severe weather. And no, this isn't a severe weather issue. The risk is very low for any severe. The risk is almost pretty low for even getting some thunderstorms going on or with this system. But nonetheless, we just want you aware. We want you ready to go. It's going to be a rainy day on Wednesday. So now you'd be prepared, and we're going to spend this stream preparing you. So looking at the big picture, the current satellite and radar loop around the southeastern region, the deep south of the United States. What we're watching is a low it's kind of dipping into the Gulf, and it's going to grab a heap of moisture and push it right across the Gulf up through the Panhandle and here into northeast Florida. So I'm going to show you a couple of computer models for the Wednesday rain, Lee, and these have been pretty consistent. So I imagine in your forecasting, pretty steady in timing and amounts of rain as well.
Absolutely. We've seen this for several days now. That's why we've had Wednesday on our radar, pun intended.
for sure.
But we're going to have widespread rain, all the way over, as you mentioned, across the Panhandle, across portions of Louisiana, New Orleans, that area getting soaked too. But that low pressure system does move over us. So what we just looked at was more of a long range model, but this is a high definition model. And it shows you how that first round of rain comes through in the morning, especially. And Lou, correct me if you've seen something different, but even over the weekend when we started getting this near-term model data, I was seeing rain in the morning more for the northern half, so along I-10 and points north, and then later in the day, in the afternoon hours, it starts to spread over more of the southern areas too, across the rest of the First Coast. And that's not to say that the southern counties aren't going to see rain in the morning either. It just looks like maybe heavier rain along I-10, especially for those morning hours.
Let's do it again. I want to do that timing again, so just so people can really hone in on the hours. So that's, again, as Lee mentioned, the bigger, wider picture view of the entire region, the entire Southeast. Watch the model, though. I'm starting it, so getting into Wednesday, 6 a.m., you see that overrunning right there across I-10. And, Lake City, goodness, looks like you're going to be in it for a good portion. There could be breaks. Mm-hmm. You could, but nonetheless, even within breaks, it's going to be overcast. It's going to be drizzly and dreary, even if you're not under those downpours. So maybe a lunch hour break if computer modeling holds. But that would be a very quick, short-lived break. And then notice that big piece of energy, which indicated your center of low, but also with the reds and the oranges that you see on your computer modeling. A lot of that has now going to shift, like Lee said, in the second half of our day to points south and even really really focusing in on that I-4 corridor. We throw in some totals here of rainfall. It's needed rain, yards needed. We're getting closer and closer to growing season, so this rain will help, and every little bit will help. We're getting into that half inch on the low end to about an inch and a half worth of rain, likely with, again, agreeing that storms are going to stay to the south. Then you show the longer range into that model, and we got some cold air coming. But this hones in on your point, Lee. This is just one. I'm going to show a couple of different rainfall total maps. This one is from the American model, the GFS model, but I mean it's showing, like you said, kind of that I-10 corridor for potential of an inch or maybe a little bit more even, where you see the darker blues of rain.
Yeah, I think at some point tomorrow everyone sees rain at some point,
Yeah.
but likely the most amount of rain falling again along that I-10 corridor, and that could be up to around 2 inches of rain for the I-10 corridor. Even though, this model more of a general, again, one of those bigger models, long range models. But you said you had other models with the rainfall
Yeah,
amounts
so
as well?
this is your from the weather predictions. So the WPC puts out their accumulated rainfall total, and I was just looking at the 24 hours that they put out with this, and I mean it's a product from NOAA, so doing some high dollar forecasting here as well, and this is showing similar isolated pockets of rain, an inch and up. You'd look for the kind of the darker blues and purples for getting into that 2-inch range. Still thinking, I think we're safe saying those who get the top end of this are going to get an inch and a half to perhaps 2 inches of rainfall here. But notice if you're south of I-10, and we talk about interstate corridors a good deal. And maybe you're new to the area, or you're just not totally keyed into what we mean by that. Remember, I-10 runs east to west right out of downtown Jacksonville, straight across over to Tallahassee and beyond to the west coast. But it really includes kind of that central portion of Duval all the way over through Baker County, Columbia County, and beyond. And so I think if you're within 20 to 30 miles north or south, 40 miles north or south of that, which is a good portion of us, you could be in that 1.5 to 2 inch rain range, which that could create some ponding on roads. And why we want to highlight really the weather impact of all of this, you think about the morning commute and the evening commute. So if you're going to be in the roads, we're going to watch out for ponding and that potential full ditches with this as well, and even up into inland southeast Georgia, where Waycross, we get that localized flooding. Blackshear as well, when the ditches get full, and some of those secondary roads, the old dirt roads that we're traveling around, could be tough to pass through as we go through, especially our Wednesday afternoon after you've had full day of accumulated rainfall. Wanted to show the SPC map, Storm Prediction Center, where they highlight on a scale pretty much a 0 to 5, a 1 to 5 scale, but that low risk, more or less that 0 risk of getting severe weather. They'll highlight the potential for thunderstorms here, and right now it's all kind of syncing up, Lee, into that what the modeling is showing us. It really kind of confirming what we think about what our day Wednesday is going to look like. And this is on that 0 end of the scale as far as severe weather is concerned. So really low confidence in that. Dynamics don't really set up for it greatly, but low risk nonetheless of maybe hearing some rumbles of thunder, certainly, if you get a little bit of instability here. For perspective, our last event, where we were, you guys, especially you and Robert, over the weekend, were tracking those severe thunderstorms, especially with southeast Georgia. I know we had a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings pops, several in the morning. That risk had, last I saw, was in that marginal range, so a level up.
That they did bump it to slight as well, and
okay.
so and that's a great way to compare it. Right now we're at technically, like you said, what they call this is just thunderstorm activity. So they're saying, yeah, you could hear some rumbles of thunder, but we're not moving into that risk of severe weather. The difference, there's a lot of differences with this. This is a low pressure system lifting out of the Gulf of Mexico. With Sunday's system, it was a line of storms that helps really fuel that punch of strong winds, straight line winds, and you have the possibility of some rotation in those. So we issued the weather impact alert because everyone saw rain and the risk of severe weather, but it was over quickly. Yeah. This one is because it's an all-day event with when, again, we say it's an impact or a nuisance. So yes, I think you're going to be impacted with your morning commute with the rain out there. Even if you do get that break at the lunch hour, like Lou mentioned, it's still a nuisance because we're not going to see the sun come out. You're going to be stepping in puddles. It's going to be gross, dreary, and damp outside. And then again, for the evening commute, some of you still dealing with those wet roadways. And so I am concerned about people on the roads. And again, I hope you don't have any sort of outdoor Wednesday plans. You need some sort of indoor backup option if you do have plans to be outside on Wednesday.
And that applies to, afternoon kids ball practice, things like that. If you got the soccer, the football, flag football, baseball, anything like that that's going on. It's probably one of those. Call the coach. He's probably going to tell you, yeah, we're moving things indoors, or we're going to skip it. Unless you're a year-round club swimmer parent, speaking from experience, and they'll swim in everything. Anything. I'm serious. I've had to drag them. I had to tell the coach. I had to drag them out of the pool in a tornado warning once upon a time. It was hysterical, and the coach was like, "Well, what was the big deal?"
Oh.
They're hardcore. Anyway, that's an
hardcore.
aside for another day. But if you're on the ball fields and you got wet, muddy conditions, you're going to ruin baseballs, and you're not going to be able to do it. So, anywho, that's that. Lee put together a really cool a look at historic last frosts and freezes. And when we're talking about a bigger picture of winter weather, I did want to answer the question. We get this low. It's kind of, I mean, you can't compare apples to apples, but kind of similar to what we saw, back in January around the 20th, 21st, when we had all that snow in the deep south. And no, I'm just going to go, no, but where is the winter weather? And looking at the Euro model here, it could casually flirt, harmless flirting with Atlanta, all right, which I'm thinking about travel. So even beyond the picture of just your commute day to day and the morning commute and the afternoon commute, if your business commute or your vacationing commute includes getting in an airplane and going to where every single airplane, it seems like, on Earth has to go as Atlanta, you may have, just to double check on Wednesday, the potential for a little bit of wintry precip there. But most of it seems to be focused actually well north of Atlanta towards the Blue Ridge area.
What about Charlotte? That's another stop for those planes.
Perfect question. That's why I put the stop here on this point, kind of Wednesday mid-morning and early afternoon. Charlotte's more of the question. So I guess those American flights, if you're connecting through Charlotte, certainly, Lee, that's a great point. Looks like a little wintry precip. And they've been talking about this, and really across North Carolina. So from the mountains, even all the way, if you look northeast corner of North Carolina towards Outer Banks areas and the beach. So from mountains to beach in North Carolina, we could be talking about them getting a little bit of snow.
Dang. All right. So then beyond this, as we mentioned, we're not getting snow.
Nope.
But we are getting the cooler air. You can see those wind arrows pointing out of the north. That's all that cool air moving into our area. And so we could have some frosty mornings yet again. Even a freeze for some places across the First Coast, especially those far inland places or across portions of southeast Georgia like Waycross. So on Friday morning, you see a low of 34 degrees. That is for the Jacksonville airport. That's what we have our numbers on the 7-day forecast. That means places like Lake City, Folkston, Waycross, you could have colder temperatures. You could perhaps be down to 32. So we are not done with winter just yet, like we've been talking about. And at 34 degrees, that's frost conditions across a good portion of the First Coast. Along the beaches, along the St. Johns River, we're usually a bit more mild, but still frost is a possibility, especially Friday morning. It will be a cold day because we're starting off cold, even freezing for some, and then we only stay in the 50s that day, and there's a breeze as well. And so the breeze might make frost conditions hard to form because you need calm winds when it comes to frost, but that also means that then you get a wind chill. So if you're sitting at 34 degrees with the breeze blowing, you're feeling like 30, 29 degrees, and then in the afternoon at 54, you're probably feeling more like upper 40s to low 50s. So a very cold day. Unfortunately, we had our fake spring, and now winter is back.
Winter's returned. It's interesting because even today, and I think, and as we do humbly, we request an understanding that we adjust numbers. We see new things all the time, and we'll adjust. We're pretty confident in what's happening Wednesday. Friday, we may need to bump those numbers down a bit as far as our morning lows, even, and we will as we get closer and see how strong that cold air will be moving in, advecting in to our area. It's amazing. You mentioned the difference between what would be the Jacksonville International Airport or further points west. This morning, I don't know if you were like watching Good Morning Jackson. I'm sure you were up very early Lee, watching Good Morning Jackson.
4:30 a.m.
Of course. But I was just very interested in how different the temperature contrast was between Mayport, which this morning spent most of the day at 55. NES Jacks, right on the river, spent most of the morning right around 50 to 51. But at Jacksonville International Airport, I mean, we were down into the mid-30s this morning. I mean, it was cold around the areas, unless you were right by bodies of water, intracoastal waterway, the ocean, but then you were dealing with a pretty strong breeze out of the northeast. I mean, Waycross had an hours-long freeze. That's why we had our freeze warning in place this morning. Waycross had an hours-long freeze this morning. Brunswick had a couple of hours below 32 or at 32 and below. So, I mean, we had some chilly weather. And then, of course, you get your bodies of water, it's not. So I think by Friday, though, it will be a little bit more all-encompassing, maybe even all the way out to the beaches. We'll watch that very carefully because this is a pretty strong area of low pressure that's going to suck in all of that cold air. And then looking ahead to the week, just because we're always talking the weekend, a lot of events happening. In fact, Friday we start a college baseball classic over at the baseball grounds, 1-2-1 Financial. Got a couple. I'm going to see if I can name it off the top of my head. So you got Coastal Carolina and NC State, and then you got Alabama and Ohio State all here in town playing college baseball Friday. So those fans going to the baseball field to watch their team play, or you're just a fan of college. I love college baseball. Like, it is the best sport. So get into it, but bundle up. It is going to be cold there through the evening because the first game's, I think, earlier in the afternoon. Then the second game they're going to do right after that. That'll be a nightcap. That's going to be chilly walking out of the baseball grounds after some college baseball. We got World of Nations this weekend. I'd watch for some rain chances on Sunday. But in the meantime, that's your 7-day forecast, Lee. I don't know if you got much else we need to add here. Just let's be prepared for tomorrow. And we'll be right here with another stream tomorrow morning as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And over the weekend, too, they have that Seawalk Pavilion,
Yes.
that music festival event. And so it's going to be breezier at the beach, too. So although your temps might be a little bit more mild, it's going to be breezy, making it feel quite chilly, too. So think more windbreaker, bundle up if you're out there as well.
Cool. All right. So current time of the stream, we're at 10:26. That's enough from us.
Yes.
Lee is going to be with us at noon for the noon broadcast. You'll hear from Tim and Ross. If you prefer the streaming variety where we really go in depth, they'll be back at 4 o'clock, and then of course you'll see them at 5 and through the 11 o'clock. In the meantime, for Lee
Also,
Southwood.
sorry, real quick.
Yes, please.
You and I will also be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. during this event. So if this time works for you, tune back in with us 10 a.m. tomorrow as we're tracking that rain actually moving through our area.
Great point. I always forget to promote us, Lee, and that. Come on, I got to do better. And in the meantime, we'll hopefully think of a name for the Lee and Lou show.
Yeah, again, send your recs for names.
Please. All right, y'all have a great one, and we'll see you hopefully live on the TV side of things at noon with Lee. Bye, y'all.